So, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
So, I'm just sharing my screen. We'll start with the theory session. Right. So, yesterday we did block 3, unit 10. Right. We were talking about the object design. Now, there are advanced object design concepts. So, we have control and its implementation, inheritance adjustment, association design, object representation, design optimization, and design documentation. These are the things they are talking about. So here they are saying, given the problem domain, the foremost task of OAD. So they are explaining that OAD is to break it into various processes and modularize the behavior into function. Object-oriented approach is used for identification of objects from the problem domain and use them in problem solving. So an object is an important element of object-oriented technique and can be represented as a physical entity such as car, truck, etc. A conceptual entity like any chemical reaction or process, or the software entity, for example, linked list, stacks, etc. Right. So object can be anything. Object is a real world entity. So real world entity can be anything. A person is an object, a car is an object, a table is an object, everything is object. So object can also be defined as an instance of a class which is identifiable thing and linked with classes that are part of any application. So every object contains associated data, that is attribute, and has some features implemented in the form of functions. By using the concept of object orientation, and implementation of program can be decomposed into a number of objects, like they have done that. So object A has data, that is attributes, and some functions. Same way object B has data and some functions. Right. To communicate between object A and object B, we use messages, and so functions are, we can apply or communicate. And there is object C also. It has data and function, and through that they are interacting with each other. They are showing in this diagram, right? So what is control and its implementation? To manage the activities of any system, many controls are used. Control means how the program change state from one to another after giving the input. So in this section, we will discuss object states and representation of their behavior. So first, they are talking about state machine, which is in your state chart diagram. So object behavior can be modeled by using static machine modeling. Any event that affects the object state causing some occurrence of actions, state transition diagram is used to represent it graphically. So you object is in a certain state. So the state of the object will change due to some triggering event. Some event occurs, and then the state of the object changes to another state. So that is represented in the state transition diagram or state chart diagram, you can say. Though we have already learned about terms and concept like state, activity, transition, so they are just revising that. A state, a curved edge rectangle is used to represent states in state transition diagram. During its life cycle, object goes through different states based on its attributes and functions. Each state has a name and action which may happen while entering or exiting the particular state. That is, changes that occur in a particular state but are internal to that state and do not result in any change of state. A state can be part of a big state and is known as substate of the big state. Also, there is starting state and last state. An object's initial state is its start state, also known as the beginning state, and is shown with a black circle in a state chart diagram or state transition diagram. The final state represents the last step in execution and is diagrammatically given a black circle enclosed in another circle. Right. So what is like here, this is the start, this is the end. Right. What is transition? Transition from one state to another is shown by an arrow from an old state to a new state, like this. Right. When an object satisfies certain applied conditions and after an event which performs various activities results in a new state. So let us take an example of an order management system. It starts from idle state and reaches to dispatch order state, taken its initial and final state. So the different intermediate states that can be possible are sending order, selecting order, or confirming order. So first, your start is this, the dark black circle. Then this is one state, idle initial state. Then it is going to requesting for order, right? If order is not available, or whatever, some triggering event occurs, order is not available, it will go to the stop state. Otherwise, if the order is, choose the type of order, and the order is there, and then it will confirm the order, and then it will dispatch, and then order is fulfilled and stop. So this kind of a thing, they are shown in a state transition diagram, right? So there is a source state. It is the initial state of the object before any transition, right? This is your idle or source state. Events, it changes the state of an object from the source to the intermediate state after it satisfied certain conditions. Example include mouse click, entering any key, a software or hardware interrupt. So you are going for from one state to another through when an event occurs, right? And condition, if the required condition is satisfied, then it returns true, and otherwise false, and no state change in state is there, right? Action is, it is an outcome because of transition. A series of actions represent a certain scenario. For example, in an ATM machine, an error message action may come because of the wrong entry, or cash withdrawal action occur if the condition is satisfied. It may execute while entering a state or exiting from a state, right? And final state, it occurs as a result of the last transition and action. So this is your final state, or the end. So control as a state within a program. So control means how the program changes state from one to another after giving the input. As we know, there are many ways to show control in a program. Control can be represented as an iterative approach using a loop or a conditional branch statement in the program depending on the input read. So control means how the program changes from one state to another. So you can show it through loops, through conditions, whatever, depending on the input you are giving. If there are many nested loop in a code, then input is transferred from low to high level until some procedure can handle it. Various steps involved in changing the state transition diagram to code are mentioned below. So if you have to change the state transition diagram, if you have a state transition diagram, how do you convert it into a code? First, detect the main and essential path. Generally, the flow of a program is sequential, or identify the states which are intermediate from the initial state. And this provides a path from the sequential events in a program, which are then converted into a programming statement of a program. Right. Check alternative routes from the main path that originates after satisfying some condition. These are written as a conditional statement later in the code. To identify the loop or iteration code in a program, read the state transition diagram for all the circle coming back to the main branch. If there are several in number and not crossing each other, nested loops can be generated with these background jump. So if there is a loop, that means you are coming back to the main branch of the code, main branch of the thing. Then that means this state transition diagram will be implemented through loops. There are several crossings are there, right? So some background paths will be implemented by means of go to statement in a program. So if you have to go to a certain line in a program, you can also use go to. So unchecked can be a case of exception handling, and depending on the language used, it will get implemented by the usual status flag or error routines or exception handling statements or function. Unchecked means if you have some errors or unchecked things are there, so you will use it exception handling to handle all those things. So this is how you are converting a state chart diagram into a code. Now, control as a state machine engine. So a state machine is a behavioral model. It consists of a finite number of states. It needs an external event that will cause branching to next activity. In other words, a state machine is a event driven. One way of implementing control is to represent and execute the state machine engine. With this technique of defining classes and routines or stub, it's easy to do advancement from analysis model to prototype building. For example, if a transition and action table is provided, then it's easy to form a class called state machine. Each object instance contains state variables and can call a state machine engine to determine the state and the required actions. Each object instance would contain its independent state variables but call on the engine to determine the next state and action. Right. So this is given. Then control as a concurrent task. Concurrency is identified and represented in the dynamic model. Concurrency allows more than one object to receive events simultaneously and more than one activity to be executed simultaneously. So, concurrency is that more than one event or activity can be executed simultaneously. So, generally, conventional concurrency needs to be avoided in programming and the sequential program approach is to be followed. However, parallelism has several advantages. That means parallel or concurrent events are occurring or happening. So the foremost reason to implement concurrency is that some tasks are inherently concurrent. Another reason might be the economical use of resources among concurrent tasks. Right. So the for concurrency, it will be faster also, and some tasks require they inherently are concurrent, that they are independent and they can run concurrently. So these are the reasons that concurrency are applied. So construct used to express concurrency are specified below. For implementing interleaved concurrency, coroutine strategies may be used. Coroutines are organized at the same level. So coroutines are there like in Python to implement concurrent activities. Another construct is the fork and join instruction. With fork, simultaneous execution of two concurrent programs of the same code is invoked, right? So in your state chart diagram, there is a fork and join thing. I don't know whether we have it in our visual paradigm or not. So fork and join means that uh, two simultaneous activities are working, right? From one to simultaneous activities are working, so you can use that in your program, right? So if we are talking about state chart diagram or state machine diagram, whatever you can say, right? I don't know, they have here fork and join or state is there. Initial, this is your initial, this one. Final, transition, element group, note, anchor, constraint is there, containment. Let me see if so like this is a fork and join. So I'm just giving you an example, right? So two activities simultaneously are coming out of this, right? So you can put that like two states are coming out of this simultaneously. It's not getting selected. And we take a state here, and the transition we are joining. So you can join like that also. So this is known as fork and join, that one from one state you two parallel states are coming out. This is known as fork and join, or you can say there is another thing also apart from fork is there, this one. Then this is join. That means two parallel activities are joining into one. So fork is there and join is there, both are there. So these activities what they are talking about. that can interleaved fork and join will be another construct which you can draw that two parallel things are going on. So parallel things or parallel programs, if you have to show the different functions or different modules you can make for that. The sequential program may execute parallelly and interact just by passing messages or through variable sharing. So that can be done active can so your sequential program may execute parallelly and interact just by passing messages or through variable sharing, right? Activities can be synchronized with the use of semaphores, but they are very unstructured and may be replaced by monitor construct. Executing entity thread with its associated data and other resources may be used to handle concurrency. Thread shares the same namespace, and each thread has its own resources and data, which allows concurrency within the process. So, process is known as active object and has a thread of control. So, if those who have studied computers, they must be knowing in operating system you have processes. Each program which is in execution mode is a process. So, processes are also divided into threads, which are lightweight processes, and threads can run independently or parallelly. Concurrency is applied in that, so thread mechanism you can use, right, for concurrency. Then concurrency in objects are considered in various ways. Intra object concurrency occurs when several threads of the same process execute concurrently. So that is known as intra process object concurrency. That is, inside an object several threads are running simultaneously, concurrently they are executing. Inter object concurrency is also there, which allows independent objects to execute simultaneously. So independent objects are executed simultaneously. That is inter-object concurrency. Intra-object means inside the object there are threads, and the threads are running parallelly or concurrently. So if many objects receive events concurrently, causing simultaneous execution of activities, but these objects are not interacting, then allow only one object per thread in a state transition diagram and a separate thread for other objects. So if an individual object operation is concurrent, then split object into various threads, as concurrency causes problems such as deadlock, disintegration of data, etc. So it should be identified and resolved at the design level rather than at the implementation level. Concurrency in objects should be fixed and implemented as a task in different programming languages of operating system depending upon the developer's need. So basically, they are just talking about concurrency. Concurrency focuses on abstraction and synchronization. For example, in an automated system, concurrency is required for many problems, as it requires various events to handle for problems that require a lot of computation that a single processor may not handle. So the use of multitasking and multiprocessing can solve these problems. By using a single processor root, many independent actions may be handled. Each program has at least one thread and will require a system of multi-threading. Multiple CPU systems allow concurrent threads to run. Concurrency can also be classified as lightweight and heavyweight. Lightweight processes share a common address space, whereas heavyweight processes exist independently. So this is what they have explained for what is concurrency and what is control and its implementation. So they have explained these two things in this. Again, they have asked you check progress question. Briefly explain the state diagram with the help of an example. Explain the concept of concurrency, right? Draw state transition diagram of an ATM. So if you see at the end of the chapter, the answers to this question will be there. I'm just going for the check progress. So first question, they have asked you that an object-oriented design deals with classes on objects. When some actions are performed on objects, they change their states. So various symbols are used. So it was asked what is state chart diagram, and uh, show the different components of state chart diagram. So you have transition. This is fork and join, or transition branch, that is decision symbol. State, start, and end, right? These are the symbols. State transition diagram for searching a friend. Consider a user is in search for another user to make him or her friend. There are many maybe events that can occur and result in various states step by step. So with example you have to show. So this is the example. Step by step procedure include for this activity includes: consider a object friend, identify various events or actions, find out the different states. So you have start, friend can be search for a friend, then friend can be added. So add a request process. If request is accepted, right, you will accept the friend. They have not made the full one. Otherwise you will go to reject friend, right? So accordingly, or you also block the user. So this kind of a thing they have created. Right. So what is concurrency? A program doing more than one task, that is performing multiple tasks at a time, is known as concurrent program. For example, consider a browse with get a request for a page, audio playing, showing the bytes for an image, user dialogue, and so on. So many things are happening. Sometimes multiple CPUs are performing these tasks. In some other systems, it can be handled by a time sharing CPU, that is switching from one activity to another. Some examples of concurrent applications include simulation, input output processing, mobile code, and embedded system. Then they have asked state transition diagram from ATM machine. So they have made that. They have not shown you the start and stop. Please also show the start and stop symbols. So your ATM is idle, then it goes to the reading card. Card is inserted, so it goes to reading card state. After reading the card, it will. If your card is invalid, then it will go to eject card state. Otherwise it will, if your card is okay, then it will say enter pin, reading pin state it will go. If the pin is invalid, again it will go to eject card, or you can say it will go back to the uh, uh, reading pin state again, right? Or if you want that after reading the pin, it goes if it is invalid, goes to eject card state, you can do that. Then if the pin is correct, then you will select the option, you will choose the option state where you will go. So options are like deposit money, balance inquiry, cash withdrawal, whatever state you are selecting. This is your fork. This is forking, that from this three parallel activities can be done. Any one can be selected, the parallel activities. Now, and all these three activities will join to uh, uh, will result in performing the transaction. Whether you are depositing, that is also a transaction. Whether balance is there, that is also a transaction. Whether cash withdrawal is there, that is also a transaction. And then you will eject the card and finish. So you have to show the start and stop. Here they are showing like you go back to the ATM idle. You can show the stop symbol here. So that is what
Excuse me,
they.
ma'am.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sure the start state is ATM idle. The stop
yes.
state will be only eject card or ATM idle also, because after finishing we are going back to ATM idle.
You can go take back here only. You can put the stop symbol also.
So
If
two
you
stop and one start. Is it correct, ma'am?
not to stop, you can stop at ATM idle after ejecting the card.
Ah, okay. So then we have to put both the symbols there only? Start also one start symbol and then
Yeah, you can do that. If you
okay.
if you are making that way, you can do that. If you are
Okay.
showing that after eject card, your stop should be there, so you can show after eject card also. That is your wish.
Okay.
Right, that is according. Sometimes they give you the question, or sometimes they tell you the question that this is the process. So according to that question process, you will make it. If they have not shown it, then you can presume your own assumptions,
So I can stop
right?
at eject card.
Yes. Right. So these are the things. Then inheritance adjustment. Now they are talking about. So you can get a theory question or in your papers regarding inheritance adjustment. So inheritance is the way to create new classes from the existing ones. The new class formed is called child or derived or subclass, and the already existing class is known as the base, parent, or superclass. So inheritance types include single, multiple, hybrid, multi-level, and hierarchical inheritance. There are different types of inheritance. With the progress of object design, one of the issues that arose was the adjustment of inheritance. The definition of various classes and operations can be adjusted for the adjustment of inheritance. That means we have to, if we have to apply inheritance, so some of the classes which are having the same behavior or same kind of thing, we have to make it a base or a base class and a subclass, that kind of a thing to implement the inheritance. To increase inheritance, the following steps should be performed. So what should be performed for adjustment? Rearrangement of classes and its operations. So see, you rearrange the classes according to its operations, that these are the similar things some of the classes are doing, so we will make it a base class and a subclass, child class, because they have a similar kind of operations. Abstract common behavior out of group of clusters. So if you have an abstract common behavior, so you'll make the base class as an abstract class, and the subclasses of that will be there. So if more than one class share a common operation and attribute, then make use of abstraction and form a superclass which contains shared properties or features, and leave only specialized features in subclass. Like we have an example of shape. So shape is an abstract class, superclass, and you have different types of shape like circle, rectangle, square, whatever. And they to draw a circle, the formula is different. To draw a square, formula is different. To draw or you can say to find the area, the formula is different. To find the area of a square or rectangle, every shape is of different uh, parameters are there. So that's why we are making shape as an abstract class. Some of the things, there are common attributes and operation which can be shared, but you have specialized features in the subclasses. So apply delegation to share implementation following a readjustment causes an increase in inheritance. So you can also apply delegation to share implementation following readjustment, right? So we'll talk about them one by one. So first is reorganize classes and their associated behavior to increase the inheritance. Inheritance can be increased by making the various adjustment as mentioned below. Some operations may have optional arguments. Operations can contain fewer arguments and are special cases of general arguments. So attributes with likeness and different names in various operations can be transferred to a parent class so that all operations can access them. Inconsistent naming strategy for operations can be avoided. Some common operations can be included in the parent class and may be relevant for some base classes and irrelevant operations for others. Hence, it is declared as no operations in them. Right. So these things you have to cater to for increasing the inheritance if you have to adjust them. Abstract the common behavior in classes. So abstraction you have to apply. Abstraction results in modularity. If two or more classes have common behavior, a new superclass will be fabricated containing the common features of all subclasses and the base class only containing the specialized features. Right. Such abstracted superclasses can be identified, and a library of these reusable classes will be created and will be used in future products. So, abstract classes also improve extensibility. You can also extend these things. Like you have a shape, you have two types of shapes like rectangle and triangle. So, the color, get area, toString, these are your, it is an abstract class. So there will be abstract method. So get area is an abstract method. It will not have an implementation in the parent class or the this abstract class. It will have implementation in the child class, which are the specialized versions of that. So color is the color will be shared. Rectangle will also take it from shape. Triangle will also take it from shape, but it has its rectangle has its own attributes also, like length and width, and triangle has base and height, right? And get area here will, the actual implementation of get area will be here. Rectangle will be length into breadth, triangle will be half base into height if it is a right angle triangle, right? So that kind of a thing. And toString function is accessed by from shape here also, right? This kind of a thing. So abstract the common behavior in classes. See the common behavior and abstract, you can make an abstract class out of that is shape. Use delegation to share behavior when inheritance is semantically invalid. So inheritance uses a transitive property where each subclass inherits attribute association operation from their superclass. Right. So inheritance follows is a relationship. Is a relationship. Inheritance is follows a is a relationship. Subclass inherits a superclass completely if operations of derived class override the similar operation of base class. In that case, it is said to be correct that the subclass or specialization of the superclass. So they are saying that subclass inherits a superclass completely. How it is inheriting completely? If operations of derived class override the similar operation of the base class, in that case it is said that it is correct that the subclasses are specialization of the superclass. For example, consider the implementation of stack class, that is the derived class, and a linked list class is already available. Right, the linked list class is defined with the 5 operations: insert, delete, beginning, end, and display. Right, and the stack class with 2 operations: push and pop. Right, so now if a stack class inherit linked list, then it will also inherit not needed operations of linked list class like insert, delete, beginning, and display. Beginning, end, these are not required in stack. Display is okay, but these insert, delete, beginning, and end is not required in stack, because stack only does push and pop operation. Another way to implement stack is to delegate some features of linked list class. For example, push can be implemented by delegation of insert and operation end operation, insert and end operation, and pop by the delegation of delete and end operation from the linked list class. So what they are saying, instead of this kind of inheritance, we can do delegation. So what is delegation? Is kind of uh, aggregation, they are saying, kind of symbol, they are aggregation symbol they have used. That means from the linked list, the stack will have insert and uh, the operations of uh, push operation. How the push operation can be implemented? By insert and end. Insert and end, by the combination of insert and end, push operation will be there, and by the combination of delete and beginning, you will have pop operation. Right, so other operations are hidden and not be used. So other operations are hidden and not to be used, as only required operation should be delegated. So in some cases like this, discourage inheritance and use delegation. So in this kind of a thing, we will discourage inheritance, we will use delegation. Delegation is used where has a relationship is required. Right, has a whole part has a relationship, aggregation, then you will use this delegation instead of inheritance. So this is how they are explaining you how you inheritance is adjusted. So you will see similar operations or similar attributes and operations, and you will club the classes according to that, so that superclass and child class can be made. And you will also see the abstract common behavior in the class, so that the class which is there are 2 specialized classes, and you make an abstract class out of that. The implementation of the functions will not be in the abstract class. The actual implementation will be in the specialized classes. And then you can, instead of inheritance, if you have some kind of uh, relationship generalization, you have to the inheritance you are doing in linked list and stack, but the some operations of that parent class you do not need. So instead of inheritance, you will use delegation, that is aggregation. That means combining two or three operations, one of the operation of the child class can be implemented that way. That is what they have shown you. So this is how you are doing inheritance adjustment. Now, association design. Association is defined as the relationship that exists among objects of different classes. A link is used to represent this relationship among objects. The plan for executing of the association has been formulated in object modeling. The strategy can be a global for all associations to be implemented, or different techniques for individual associations. So association means link between two objects, right? So that is your association, relationship between two objects, you can say. Two objects can be linked if there exists an association among their related classes. The link represents the path or the link between the instances of the classes. Association described as a structural relationship among objects. It is represented as a solid line, mainly directed, usually includes labels, and often specifies multiplicity and role names. Example is a person and organization. Person works in an organization. Works in is the name of the association, and you are saying what is the role of that role in this relationship is person is an employee and organization is an employer. These are the role names. M and I, what they are showing is the multiplicity. You can say many persons work in one organization, so one to many, you can say. So association modeling steps to be followed are: data driven view. It is used to navigate between the objects of the classes. It is needed to show the association between the two classes. Behavior driven view. This allows for interaction between objects of different classes. Define multiplicity and role name in both cases. So you can association modeling can be done in data driven view, where you are defining the association between two classes, and behavioral driven view also, how they are interacting between the objects of the classes, right? So for example, information management system of a college is shown here. Like here, college is there, student is there, department is there, faculty is there, course is there, right? So in a college, they have not shown the relationship between college and department. So college has different departments, so you can make an aggregation in this, right? Aggregation relationship will be there. Departments are part of the college, right? So college have name, address and phone number. Add student, delete student, add department. This fourth one you do not have to make the section. It is same. These are the operations, all the operations. The fourth section is not there, right? They have mistakenly done that. Then department name and add faculty, remove faculty is there. Course is there, name and course, student name and enrollment number. Faculty are part of the department, and an HOD. Another relationship is that a faculty member will be the head of the department, right? So the relationship you can show that what is the multiplicity, college and student. There are one college can have many students, right? And the college, one college can have many departments, right? And department can have many faculties, right? A department can have many courses also. So aggregation represents the special kind of association between the whole and its parts. Composite association in case there is a strong dependency between class 1 and class 2 as a result. If class 1 is deleted, class 2 is also deleted automatically. Use a composite link to show that. So we know that aggregation is a whole part relationship, but composite is a strong dependency, that full dependency is on the other. If one is deleted, the other will be deleted. So various constraints of UML associations are: implicit relationship between object is on a concept basis. Ordered objects can be arranged in some specific way. Changeable relationship between objects can be modified. Add only new connection between objects can be added at any time. Frozen constraint not allowed for modification of already constructed link, right? So they have just given you difference. If you are asked the question what is association, what is aggregation, what is composition, they have given you the difference between them. This is denoted by a simple not arrow. I should not say by an arrow. It's not arrow, it is a line, denoted by a line, remember that, right? Then aggregation is denoted by empty arrowhead, right? So empty arrowhead, instead of arrowhead, it is a diamond in front. Aggregation is denoted by a diamond in front, an unfilled diamond, you can say. Then composition is denoted by filled arrowhead. They are saying that that is a arrowhead. I will say a diamond. Filled diamond is a composition, right? Can be classified on one to one to many, many to many. Associations are there. So aggregation is a weak association, has a whole part. and strong type of association is composition, right? Association can be in between two or more objects. Linked objects can remain in the scope of a system without each other, right? That means aggregation, in an aggregation, it is not a strong relation, not a strong relationship, weak association it is. So basically that means if there is aggregation, that means that the thing the objects can remain uh, in the scope of a system without each other also. They are not fully dependent on each other, but objects cannot remain in the scope without each other, because if one is deleted, the other will be deleted in a composition. So objects are linked, right? Objects are not dependent on each other in aggregation, and objects are strongly dependent on each other in composition. Example is relationship between student and teacher object. Example of aggregation is vehicle requires wheel but not every time of the same type. An example of composition is relationship between file and folder. If folder deleted, all files in the folder also deleted automatically, right? So this is they have given you. Now analyzing association traversal, right? So associations are inherently bidirectional, right? That means a single line is there. You have not given any arrow in the association. So that's why by default we say inherently they are bidirectional. Both ways you can the data can travel. So if the association used in any application is unidirectional, that is one way. It helps in easy implementation. As the requirement may change with time, there may be a need for a new association that traverses in opposite direction. So for the prototype to work, a new behavior can be added or bidirectional association may be included. In the case of optimization work, optimize some of the associations. So associations, if you are implementing unidirectional association, it is easy. But if you have to implement bidirectional association, then a new behavior has to be added, that you will go from opposite direction also, right? So that is required. Associations can be defined as a family of links. It can link multiple classes. It can be classified as unary, binary or ternary relationship, that is single, both ways. And there can be that means ternary means three objects are interacting or three classes are interacting. Aggregation and reflexive connects the objects of the same classes. Association can be categorized as weak association when two classes are linked, as if the method of class 1 is using the attribute of class 2 or the return object of class 2. So in addition, each association is characterized by three types of cardinality: one to one to many to many, the multiplicity. Association degree tells us about the involvement of the number of classes in a link. If it is, so unary connects same class object, matlab only one class is there. Binary have two classes, connects two classes, and ternary connects three classes, three or more, right? So one way association is an association which traverse in a single direction, will be implemented as a pointer attribute containing the reference to the object. So in case of many multiplicities, a set of pointers is required for implementation purpose. So they are saying if you have to implement one-way association which traverse in a single direction, this will be implemented as a pointer attribute containing the reference to the object, one way, right? In case of many multiplicities, a set of pointers is required for implementation purpose. Use list rather than set if the many end is ordered. So you use a list rather than a set. A dictionary object can be used in case of multiplicity association, where the dictionary consists of many instances that map selector values in target value. Right. Generally, qualified association with multiplicity many are rare. So it is implemented as a dictionary set of objects. So they are giving you. So unidirectional associations, for implementing unidirectional association, that is one way, care should be taken so that unidirectionality is maintained. The implementations for different multiplicity are as follows. Optional association. In this type of association, the class may or may not be linked to each other. It may be possible that customer have a current account or may not be. Consider the case of a customer with its current account. So here you are showing one customer may or may not have an account, so 0 or 1, right? So that is optional association. One-to-one association is, in one-to-one association, one class instance is connected to just one instance of the other class. Consider a situation where manager is related to its department in one-to-one relationship. One department, one manager, right? That way. So that is one-to-one. What is one-to-many association? In this association, single occurrence of a class is linked to many occurrences of other class. In the example below, one department has many employees associated with it. So this should be one department, and this should go here. Many one. This should not be 0 or asterisk. It should be 1 or asterisk. One or many employees. One to many, right? Then bidirectional association, it is used to so if you see the arrows are given here, this is a unidirectional. If arrows are given here, this is a unidirectional one-way association, unidirectional association. Right, now bidirectional association, it is used to relate associations that communicate in both directions regularly on constantly, or it is also defined as an association that relates two objects in both directions. A bidirectional relationship provides navigational access in both directions. There are many implementing ways for these types of association, right? In the first method, a single side association is implemented and a searching procedure is required in case opposite side traversal is needed. So they are saying if we have to implement this unidirectional, the first method is that you implement single side association, and in the reverse direction, if you have to traverse, then you will use a searching procedure. Right. This is the special case where there is a difference in traversal frequency in both directions. This must be handled by minimizing both type of costs, storing and updating costs. Otherwise, a reverse traversal leads to an increase in the cost. In the second method, to implement binary association, the pointers may be used for traversal purposes. In this case, if change occurs in any attribute of one class, then it must be updated by another class so as to maintain consistency, but to keep in mind that the number of updates do not cross the number of access, right? So that way you can implement the bidirectional. In the third method, the relationship between the class is represented by a new association class with the attributes, or it is also known as qualified association. Two different objects are used for traversing in both directions. So we will use another class with another association which is known as qualified association, and the two objects are used for traversing in both the directions. Note that the association class attribute may be the part of either class in the case of one-to-one relationship. In case of one-to-many relationship, attributes are from different object class, and in many-to-many relationship, it is implemented as a separate class. So they are saying if bidirectional association is there, so in case of one-to-one, the attribute may be the part of either class in the case of one-to-one association, right? In case of one-to-many relationship, attributes are from many objects class, and in many-to-many, it is implemented as a separate class. So in case the association needs some attributes to be shown, then a separate class will be used. The below example shows many-to-many association between two classes, and a new class works on is added containing more details about their association, like this. So employee is there and project is there. There is a many employees and many projects are there. So you have added another class which is known as works on. So hours and start date are added. This is bidirectional association between many to many. Many to many association. You have added another class also here to implement this bidirectional association for many to many. So this they have explained. Again, they have asked you check progress question about importance of inheritance. What are the various types of inheritance? Describe association, aggregation, and composition. Differentiate between specialization and generalization with the help of an example. Then object representation. Object represent the static view of object-oriented system. and their behavior is defined only in class. Objects should not be defined without the classes. Object representation means representing object using an object model. Object can be represented diagrammatically. Attributes of the objects can be represented in terms of basic data types, integer, float, string, etc. in a class. The object designer's task is to decide and identify how to combine and implement objects, right? So object name you will find out, and the different object attributes which are there. So object representation rules for representing objects by using the diagram, analyze the system and identify all the objects. Important instances should be identified. It should have some heading, show some important association between objects, add comments or notes wherever necessary. Object diagram consists of objects and link to connect them with other objects. Object diagram for order management system they are showing you. So customer is there, and the customer has placed three types of order: order 1, order 2, order 3. And so this is a special order or something, and a normal order they are showing in this different types of orders. So there are customer order, priority order, normal order, right? So major elements of object model are abstraction, encapsulation, modularity, hierarchy are there. Abstraction is defined as a system specification which focuses on some relevant properties for a user or viewer while hiding the details. Class encapsulate attributes and methods together which can be accessed by the objects. Modularity implies software or program is divided into various modules. Modules should be more cohesive and coupling between them should be less. Hierarchy in OOPs can be implemented by means of inheritance. There are various of benefits of object modeling and representation. So they are saying what is first they are talking about object model. So object model is an example they are giving like this, and an object model will the major elements which are there in an object model will be abstraction, encapsulation, modularity, and hierarchy. So abstraction is the property that the user you are hiding the details from the user, and encapsulation is that the class is an example of encapsulation where you are putting the attributes and method together in a class, right, which can be accessed by the object. Modularity is that the you are dividing the software into modules, and modules should be cohesive, and coupling between them should be less, right? That cohesion should be more, and coupling should be left. What is cohesion? Cohesion is interdependence between the module should be uh, less. That is coupling. Interdependence of modules, and cohesion is interdependence between a module. The elements inside the module should have dependence, right? So that is cohesion. And hierarchy is implemented by means of inheritance if you have to implement the hierarchy. So there are various benefits of object modeling and representation. With the use of objects, all OOPS language features can be accessible. Reuse of design and software is possible by using object model. Application of object modeling includes problems related with various fields: aviation, automation, robotics, banking, business, etc. Many complex problems can be easily implemented by using object representation. So that is what they are giving you the benefits of object modeling. So there are many ways for implementing or representing objects during designing phase, but utmost care should be taken by the designer so as to minimize cost, execution time, and memory space required. So consider an example of an employee object where the employee identification number is, or EIN, is an attribute which is implemented as an attribute of the employee class or a new class form for it. So in first case, object EIN can be represented as an attribute of employee class. It can take any data type, either integer or string. So here employee is a class, and EIN or employee identification number is the attribute of that class. In the second case, employee identification number is implemented as an association to employee identification number object, which itself can contain either an integer or a string. So here what they have done is an employee class is there, and you have attached a EI number, employee identification number, class, uh, part employees employee identification number is part of the employee class, and EIN will take here whatever data type, integer or string. So this kind of a thing also you can implement, right? So many ways are there to implement or represent objects during the designing phase. So these are the two ways they are showing that this way you can implement, right? So there is a trade-off between the two approaches, and it is the choice of the designer to opt for the best one. So he can choose this one also, he can choose this one also, right? So in the alternate method, the object designer may go for combining classes containing related objects, as shown in figure 11.10. There are two different implementations of a line class. One contains all the attributes of a class, and in the other representation it is embedded as an attribute of the point class. So if you see here, first in the first case, A1, B1, A2, B2, all the attributes are in one class of line, and in the other you have made point class. So you can have uh, a point class which is having the A or B float, and P1 and point 1, point 2, you can say that it for point 1 you will be creating A1, B1, and for point 2 you again will be creating A2, B2, right, for the line. So this way also you can do that. So both of these representations will be used by object oriented designers depending on the choice of them. So this way also you can implement the combining of classes, right? Now they are talking about design optimization. So it considers various design models constructed and trade-offs between time, space, cost, and other metrics, but does not leave behind other criteria, with ease of maintaining, implementation, extension, ease of understanding, reusability, and many more. A design model adds detailing to support efficient information access. The designer uses the analysis model as a framework for the implementation, as it stores the logical information regarding the system. While designing a system, the correctness of the analysis model is required for efficient implementation, and then optimizes. Some important points related to design optimization. So what you are saying is a design model is model add detailing to support efficient information access. So you have to design the model, and the design should be optimized, right? That means the correctness of analysis model is required for efficient implementation, and then after you have done that, then you have to optimize it. So some of the related points to design optimization are: often a small part of the code is responsible for the most of the time or space cost. That is a small part of the code, if it has error or if it is not implemented correctly, so it will create a problem, and it will also have space cost or time cost, right? Optimizing critical areas is the best approach to work on all areas evenly. So that means those areas which is critical in your system, so for those areas you should have the best approach, right? For that you should design the best approach, so that evenly all areas will work. An optimized system is more ambiguous, and there is a little possibility of its reusability, right? So optimized system is more ambiguous. There will be no errors, or it will be individual thing which are running, so there is a little possibility of its reusability will be less. It is good to maintain the correct balance between efficiency and transparency, right? So these are the points they are saying that you should keep in mind while optimizing the design, right? Tasks that need to be performed for design optimization include: work on providing efficient access paths, reorder the computations for greater efficiency, and intermediate results should be saved to avoid recomputation. So adding redundant associations for efficient access, that is efficient paths you are working on, as the redundant information is not of any use. So rearrangement of association must be realized to optimize critical aspects of the system. Let's take an example of an employee skills database. Operation organization identify expertise returns all those persons in the specified organization with a given skill set. Right. So consider an example where the organization has 1,500 employees. Each one is expert in 5 tasks. Then the number of total entries becomes 7,500. To increase the hit ratio for any query, contain certain measures should be taken. If there is a need to improve the number of hits for any ask query, the class objects can be implemented by means of any technique like indexing or hashing, which increases the access to frequently retrieve objects. This may increase the cost, and there is a requirement for additional memory to handle indexes or hash tables. Right. So while system optimization, following points should be considered. Examine each operation and see what association it must traverse to obtain its information. Identify all unidirectional and multidirectional associations. Next, for each operation, keep the following points into consideration. How frequently can it be accessed, and what cost to perform it? Compute the fan out along the path through the network. The fan out of a class or method is the number of other classes used by that class or the number of other methods called by that method. To keep the count of all associations that come across in the track and accordingly calculate the fan out for the complete path. Nested loops can be avoided, and frequent costly operations with a low hit ratio can be justified using indexes. So these are the things you should keep in mind by system optimization if you are doing. Consider an example of withdrawal operation from the bank ATM. All the transaction of cash greater than rupees 50,000 will take into account and will be informed to the government for further action. So the classes involved during this may include ATM to bank account to update account. All the updates of withdrawal operations are filtered against the checkpoint where cash greater than rupees 50,000 is withdrawal. This can be possible with the derived association from bank account to update account would speed this operation. Right. Then algorithm optimization. So you algorithm optimization is in object oriented design. It requires to work on data structure and algorithm both. The step includes to perform art. The computational order may be changed to increase the efficiency of the algorithm. Right. Check if the order of executing the loop is correct. If not, then reorder it. Then many paths in the code lead to death path. This needs to be identified, modified, or removed from the algorithm. So these are the things you should consider while you are doing algorithm optimization. Then saving derived values to avoid recomputation. Derived attribute values are based on the values of base class attributes. To avoid inconsistency in the update of derived attribute, three methods are used. Derived attributes are updated back to back as their base attributes are updated. In other method, as the base class attribute is updated many times and derived attributes are updated once, all updation of the base class attribute is complete. Recompute derived attribute with the update of each base class attribute. This method is time consuming and should be avoided. So recompute derived attribute, this should be avoided. So as the derived attribute are updated back to back based on their base attribute. So that is a good method, right? And deprecation behavior written in code is rigid, so you can execute but cannot manipulate it at runtime. If you need to store, pass, or modify the behavior at runtime, you should refine it, you can say, right? So these are the things they are talking about in design optimization, that you have to optimize the design. These are the points which they are catering to. So these are the tasks. You have to find the efficient path. You have to reorder the computation for greater efficiency, and intermediate results should be saved to avoid recomputation. And there are certain uh, uh, adding redundant association for efficient access, or algorithm optimization. You should do saving derived values to avoid recomputation you can do. So this will help you in design optimization. Then design documentation. So design documentation is the information that completely describes the design process. The term is uh, derived from an idea regarding documenting the design in formal writing, as OOPS allow the reuse of software content. That is why there is a growing demand to document the existing software. It is good to apply object-oriented technology to documentation also. So what is the documentation? The information completely which is describing the system, right, or the design process, is your design documentation. And the term is derived from the idea regarding documenting the design in formal writing. So it will help for some other system. If you are making some other system, so you can go to the design documentation of the previous one. You have documented it. If certain things can already exist, you can reuse them from this. So that is why design documentation is also important. So documentation should be precise in explaining the capabilities of already constructed components. It may be divided. So what are the different design documents? It may be divided into various types: user documentation, system documentation, and project documentation. So design documentation is part of the system documentation that addresses all interfaces and implementation aspects of software to facilitate maintenance and reuse. One advantage of reusing is improving the programmer's overall productivity and quality of software. So these design documentation include information needed to reuse the software design, information required for implementation and maintenance. So the design document can further be classified as static overview, dynamic overview, class interface description, task interface description, class implementation, task implementation. So static overview is it contains the details of the required platform, its software and hardware requirement, software architecture, specify classes, its organization and description of all classes. That is static view. Dynamic overview it handles all event information, inter-application communication, control of flow, etc. Class interface description it includes class view describing its various operations and class capabilities. Task interface description it details the use of classes for new applications or tasks in document. For example, for a particular task, which class can be used directly or by applying inheritance property, which subroutine or behavior of the class can be overridden, etc. Class implementation description can also be given. It may include the internal structure of the class with detail and the purpose of its data and methods. One important point to note here is that the interface description of class is not discussed here. Just hold on for a second. Yeah, sorry. So we were talking about the task description and interface description. It details the use of classes for new application or task in document. For example, for a particular task, which class can be used directly or by applying inheritance property, which subroutine or behavior of the class can be overwritten, etc. Class implementation description you can give. It may include the internal structure of the class with detail and the purpose of its data and methods. One important point to note here is that the interface description of class is not discussed here. Then task implementation description you can give. It documents the classes, methods that are part of a certain task and is usable for maintenance engineers. So you have to give all these things. The static view you are giving the details of the required platform and software, hardware. All these things you have to document in the design document. Right, in dynamic overview you are giving all the event information, inter application communication, control flow, everything. In class interface description it includes class view describing its various operations and class capabilities. Task interface description you are describing the use of classes for new application or task document. So any particular class which is a particular task, which class can be used for that task and all that. And class implementation you are describing the class, the internal structure, attribute, operations and all that of that class. All these things you are describing, task implementation, also classes and methods you are describing, right? So all the design decisions taken by an object designer must be written form and be documented for future reference. It may be the case that the current designer will shift to another place and a new person will come to look after the current project. In this case, the new designer will use already documented data of an unaccomplished project to get information on the incomplete project. As in the analysis phase, the system requirement document, SRS, system requirement specification document, is prepared in the same way. The design document is shown with a more detailed illustration of the object model containing text and graphical representation and a description of all the features like association, inheritance, and abstraction. So, what is a good design document is significant in many areas, like there may be a probability that the software may be divided into many modules and many developers are working on different modules. So, as there is no technique of software development that goes in a sequential manner and it is an iterative process, documentation is necessary, right? Each software is developed in parts or comes in a different version, and it's easy to develop a new version from the previous one if the design is documented. Software is tested and evaluated using many performance criteria, so it must be documented. Finally, maintaining software is a very hectic task and requires a document with all the details. So, this is why you require a good design document. These are the things you should keep in mind. The content of the design document may contain a basic structure, architecture of a complete system, showing all the classes, its objects, and other required details. Diagrams for different modules can be included for more details. All aspects of the system behavior in different circumstances need to be addressed. So this is what you should have in your design document. And what are the features? This question can also be asked. What are the features of a good design document? The features are high. It should be highly organized and well structured, summarized, uniform or homogeneous, reliable and perfectly framed. It should cover all the requirements collected during the analysis phase. It should be less illustrative and more emphasis on images or pictorial representation. Then it is a good design. These are the features of a good design document. So this is about the design documentation. What is design documentation? It is explaining. Again, it is asking you questions. So this is all about your this part of unit 11 of block 3, right, where we are talking about the advanced object design, object representation, association, design optimization, design document, inheritance, adjustment, control, and its implementation. So this is what they have explained in this. The next unit, which is next block which is there, is your fourth block, which is your last block, right? So this is implementation strategies. Now they are discussing. So we know that whatever we have made, now if we have to implement that thing in code, so that is what is explained in this unit. So mapping design to code is what is required in the software development cycle. When you reach the design part of the software, you can create a design document which includes different UML diagrams such as design, class diagram, and interaction diagram during the design model. This document is used as input to the code generation in object-oriented programming language. Now it is time to use the design document to start writing code. The mapping design to code means that design classes are converted into a program code by writing program statements in a programming language. So classes in the design model can be implemented by writing program code in an object-oriented programming language such as C++, Java, or whatever, Python also you can use. A design class represents an abstraction of one or more classes in the software implementation. In fact, class and its object depends only on the implementation language. For example, in an object-oriented language such as C++ and Java, a class can relate to a plain class. To design model can be very near to that. So this is what they are explaining. So now we are just going into how we implement it. So creating class definition from class diagram, how do you do that? A design class diagram helps you to write program code for software application development. A class diagram gives you an overview of your application software by depicting classes and their attribute, operation methods, and relationship, dependency, generalization, association among objects. So you are aware of the essential elements of the class. This information is enough to create a basic class. So if you see, you have a teacher and a student. This is teacher, this is student, and the teacher has a operation view student, and student has attribute and operation given here, right? So if you see following, so if those of you who are using NetBeans IDE, right? Uh, So in NetBeans IDE, you may add Easy UML plugin into NetBeans to solve your purpose of basic implementation. So if you give in Easy UML plugin of NetBeans, if you give this diagram, so it will automatically create the code for that particular class. The following example illustrates how to create class definition from the class diagram. Assume that the teacher wants to view the details of the student. Here is a partially created class diagram for teacher and student relationship as shown in the figure. The diagram has two classes, teacher and student. Class student defines only two attributes, roll number and name with get detail method. On the other hand, teacher has only one method, view student. So if you have to make the a class for student, so you will say class student. This is in what you say Java. They are showing you. You can also do it in C++ also. Say, thing. So class student, string roll number, which is your attribute, and string name, and public student, this is the constructor they have created for the student class. You are passing string roll number, string name here, and this dot roll number is equal to roll number, this dot name is equal to name. You are initializing the through the constructor the values, and public string get detail, this is the function which you are making, and return roll number plus name. So you are returning roll number plus name, right? And the other class is teacher, and view student is the function in that. So class teacher, public void view student, and this class. This is how the code is generated for these two classes. Yes or no? This is how you
Yes, ma'am.
create the classes and the code. Right. Now you can add some more Java code to the above example to complete the program. You can compile this program also if you want, but that is not required. Just an example they are giving. Like here, import java.utility scanner public class example. So you have given the your main is there. In the main, you are making you have two classes, student and teacher, and the student object you are creating as student s1 is equal to new student, and to the constructor you are passing s123, the roll number, and name as xyz. So it will pass here roll number and xyz as the name. Teacher t1, the teacher class object is created equal to new teacher. T1 dot view student, and s1 the object of the student class is passed to the teacher class here, right? So if you see, this is your class student which you have created earlier, right? Now in the teacher class, what you have done, public void view student, and you are passing the parameter student s here. That means the object of the student will be passed here to this view student. And scan is equal to new scanner, system dot in, system dot out println, enter student roll number. So it will ask for entering the student roll number. So string get roll number is equal to scan dot next line. So here the user will input the roll number, or you can see the teacher will input the roll number. Suppose the teacher inputs a roll number as s123. If get roll number dot equals s dot roll number, that means the roll number which you have got from the teacher equals a roll number which is here in the class, in the constructor, in the object s dot roll number. So system.out println s.get details. So you will get the details of the student, that the roll number of the student is this and the name of the student is this. It will print this roll number plus name, right? Get details. So they have just
Yes,
given you
ma'am.
an example, right? This is how you implement a class. Now, implementing associations, link and associations, if you have to implement, then what you have to do. So, if they have given you a link is considered as an instance of an association. Association is a group of links that contain objects from the same classes, right? So, they are just explaining that multiplicity and all that. So, suppose like here you have manager, bank, and account, right? So you can have different kinds of association. The direction of association is important. So the traversal means moving to other objects by following its reference. The direction of traversal is in one way from A to B. If only holds a reference to B. There can be two-way association where A and B both hold references to each other. Based on traversal, the association is a one-way or two-way association. One-way or unidirectional association is traversed in one direction, and two-way or bidirectional association is traversed in both directions. So if you wish to implement a unidirectional association, you may consider one point, then you shall maintain the association in only one direction. In the case of implementation of bidirectional association, the association must be maintained in both directions. You can use pointers or association objects for implementing association. So you can use pointers for that. The pointer is a reference to another object reference or another variable, you can say. So this kind of an implementation they are showing you, right? The figure this defines classes such as manager, account, bank, and an association between manager and bank classes. Here the manager works for the bank and might manage many accounts of people in the bank, like this, right? The implementation of one-way association must be applied in one direction for the reason that a specific link wishes to be traversed in one direction. This unidirectional association may be implemented through a single reference pointing in the direction of traversal. So, like manager and bank. Manager works for the bank. Unidirectional one-way association is there towards the bank. So, uh, if one-to-one relationship exists between bank and manager, then the simple pointer is used. Here, simple pointer is used. If there is one-to-many relationship, then multiple pointers are used for implementing unidirectional or one-way association, like here. So, as far as bidirectional association, they traverse in both directions. Generally, such associations do not traverse with equal frequency in both directions. If bidirectional association traverse with more frequency in both directions, attribute should be implemented using a set of pointers like this, right? This approach provides fast access, but you may have to update attributes in both directions to maintain link consistency. It means if one attribute is updated on one side, then the attribute on the other side must be updated. If traversal is in less frequency, then implement as an association in one direction, right? So usually the two distinct aspects of the implementation of associations are as under. The data declaration is essential to define so that it permits the details of the actual links stored. So we are not going for that. We just are. So here they are talking about how unidirectional implementation is done. So you have optional, you have one-to-one, and you have association with multiplicity. That means you have optional association 0 or more, right? You have one-to-one association and you have association with multiplicity, that is multiple, many to many, right? So optional association is, in an optional association, a link between the participating object may or may not exist. This type of association is implemented in one direction only. So this figure shows an optional association between two classes, a person and credit card. Every person may or may not have a credit card. So it only depends upon the person's need who desires to take a credit card or not. So the implementation of optional association is easy. You can implement optional association through a simple reference variable as revealed in the following code. This allows person object to encompass a reference to one credit card object. If a person is not associated with the card, then the reference variable will be null. The implementation is like this. So you have made a class person, public class person, private credit card, and the credit card object you are creating here a variable, right? Public credit card get card, return the card, public void set card credit card, and the variable is set here. Then card is c card is equal to card, public void remove card, so c card is equal to null. So this way they have put it. So you are creating a variable credit card and c card, and you can get public credit card get card. So this is your c card, and if you want to initialize it, they are set, you are setting the card to this card. And then if you have a card, if the person has a card, then it is set like this. If it doesn't have a card, it is set like this, null, right? There is a reference. If he has a card, the object to encompass a reference to one credit card object. If a person is not associated with the card, then the reference variable will be null, right? This way they have implemented optional association, right? One-to-one association is in simplest form of association to implement between two classes. In one-to-one association, one occurrence of a class is related to exactly one occurrence of the associated class. So in unidirectional association, you can traverse from an occurrence of one class to an occurrence of the associated class as indicated by the direction of the arrow, but not in a reverse direction. So suppose you have clock and display, one-to-one, one clock, one display, right? So public class clock, and you can make a public class display also, right? And you can have a private display, the display the object of the display class in clock class. And same way you can have a clock inside a uh, clock object inside a display object, one-to-one relationship. So here they are saying one person, one account, right? One-to-one unidirectional association. So you have a person class. You are saying private account of an object of the account class is created here, right? And this is the constructor. You are saying new public person account is equal to new account, public account get account, and return account will be done, something like that. They're just showing you an example. You don't have to write the full code, just an example code you have to give, right? Then association with multiplicity, that is many, like one teacher can have many students, can teach many students. So that this type of association can be implemented using a suitable container class. The class affirms a vector of student as a private data member, and the methods to add or remove student from this collection by simply calling the corresponding method defined in the interface of the vector. So here you are using vector student object, vector because number of students are there, more students are there, the vector of students you are creating, and you can add the student or you can remove the student according to the vector, student object vector which you have created. That is what they are talking about. If you have many, right? Then they are explaining bidirectional implementation. So bidirectional also one-to-one and optional association, one-to-many and immutable association. So one-to-one and optional association is one person can have or may or may not have an account, right? You must be able to traverse from an account class to the corresponding person class and vice versa. Matlab in both direction, from person to account to person, in both directions you can travel. That is bidirectional. For implementation, you have to create two classes, person and account. Both the classes contain a link through which it is associated. Each class needs an attribute that contains a reference to an object of the associated class. Each class must have a constructor. The account attribute is initialized in the constructor of the person class, and it is never modified. It is in a similar manner, person attribute is initialized in the constructor of the account class, and it is also never modified. Consider the following implementation. So you have created a person class and you have created a account class. in a one to one, in a one to zero or one account, you can say. So what it is saying, you have to create the two person and account class. Both the class contain a link. So each class needs an attribute or contains a reference to an object. So each class must have a constructor. So if you see here, this is the in person class, you have an account of variable, an attribute that contains a reference to an object of the associated class. You are creating account, and in account, a person class attribute is created here, right? Now each class must have a constructor. The account attribute is initialized in the constructor of the person class. So if you see here, this is the constructor, and the account attribute is initialized in the person class, and in the account class, the person attribute is person attribute is initialized, right? Initialize, and these cannot be modified. This cannot be modified, and this cannot be modified. This is how one to one bidirectional association is implemented in both the directions. One to one association is implemented, right? In one to many association, one source is connected with multiple targets. For example, many students can register for one program. In one to many bidirectional, suppose one person can have one or many accounts, right? So for implementing this association, the person class can hold a data member to store a set of pointers to account class. In addition, each account should store a single pointer to a person class. The responsibility of maintaining the link shall be given to the person class. So in object-oriented programming languages, one-to-one relationship are generally implemented with collection objects such as set, list or map, or even a simple array. Java libraries provide collection classes such as hash set, array list, and hash map, which implement the set, list, and map interfaces. Following is the implementation of one-to-many. So you have a person with many accounts. So account class is there and person class is there. So account class, we have created the person attribute here, and here we are saying public void set person, and person new person we have created here. If person not equal to new person, person old person is equal to new person, person is equal to new person, they have created. So they are just adding some account, some code they have written for adding a person. You're setting a person account, right? And in public class person, private set accounts, set of accounts you have to take, because there are number of accounts for that person. So set of accounts for public person, the constructor of the person class, accounts is equal to new hash set. So set of accounts you have to take the hash set. Public void add account, account is so account object you are taking, accounts dot add account, ac dot set person this. So you are setting the person, so you are adding here and setting the person this person is added this account, and you can also remove the account like this. This is how they have implemented with a set of accounts are there. So hash set they have used to set the account. That is what they are showing you by one to many bidirectional association, right? Then immutable, what is immutable association? So in object oriented programming, an immutable object is unchangeable object, and its states cannot be modified after it is created. So whereas mutable objects are changeable objects which can be modified after their creation. So immutable are unchangeable objects. So immutable objects are inherently thread safe and offer high security than mutable objects. So associations are immutable data structures. So this means that they carry no state, and a copy of an association is another completely independent association. So consider the following example for immutable association. Association between account and debit card are traversed in both directions. It is assumed that there is a restriction for the debit card. It can only be issued to person per account. So the relevant class diagram which preserves this restriction, account and debit card one-to-one association is there. So public class account, private debit card, DB card. This variable has been declared for the in the account class. Public account, debit card, D card. You have initialized the in the constructor the debit card. Public debit card, get debit card, and you are returning the debit card. In public class, debit card, private account. So you are setting in the account class, you will have debit class variable, and in the debit card you will have account class variable that you have set. Public debit card account is passed in the debit card constructor. So this way they have shown you a simple example of an immutable association one to one, right? So they have asked you what is bidirectional, how bidirectional implementation are made, what is the difference between unidirectional and bidirectional. These questions are asked in your this. The next part they are talking about is just go through the check progress question. Implementation strategies too, and in this part they are talking about creating methods from collaboration diagram. So collaboration diagram is also known as communication diagram. So they have given you the definition here, I'm not reading that, right? So in a collaboration diagram, like here object A 1, if A is greater than B, then message 1 is passed to object B. If it is not greater than A is not greater than B, then message 2 is passed to C, right? Something like that. If A is greater than B, object B dot message 1, else object C dot message 2. This is how you implement the collaboration diagram. Like consider the example here, customer can insert ATM card into the card reader of the ATM console. The card reader reads and verifies the card. ATM console displays a message and prompts the customer to enter PIN. Customer enters the PIN. ATM console verifies the PIN with the bank database and confirms the PIN is valid. If PIN is valid, ATM console notifies the customer with a message and ejects the card. If PIN is valid, invalid, it will eject, and if it is valid, ATM console represents a prompt with options such as deposit, withdraw, and transfer money. Customer selects withdraw option. ATM console represents prompt to the customer for an accurate amount to be withdrawn. Customer enters the amount. ATM console verifies with the bank database whether the customer account has sufficient funds. Otherwise, it shows an insufficient fund message. ATM console deducts money from the customer account, puts the requested amount in cash dispenser, and prints a receipt. ATM console rejects the card and becomes ready for another transaction. So the above flow of construct, if you have to make it in a collaboration diagram or communication diagram, it will be customer, card reader, ATM console, cash dispenser, database. So customer insert the message number should be given. Inserts the card reader reads the card. Second message, the ATM console will now now prompt the PIN to be entered by the customer. The customer will enter the PIN to the ATM console. Fourth message, it will enter the PIN to the ATM console, and then ATM console will verify from the bank database the PIN number. If it is verified, if it is not invalid, it will eject the card, right? If it is valid, so it will prompt the user for the option. So user will enter the user will select the option 8 at the ATM console, right? And then uh, select the option. So the ATM console will select the option of withdrawal. The ATM console will ask for the amount to be withdrawn, prompt the amount. The customer enters the amount. 10th message, the ATM console then verifies the amount from the bank database whether it is less than the balance, and then it will deduct the amount, update the bank database, right? And put the cash in the cash dispenser. 14, print the receipt, right? So this is the way this thing has been made in a communication diagram. Now how do you find out the methods? You have to find out methods in this creating methods from collaboration diagram. So what are the different methods you have found out in this? So you have classes like customer, ATM console, card reader, bank database. So customer, what all methods are there? Insert card, right? Enter amount, select option, enter pin. These are the methods which the customer is doing. The card reader has only one method, which is read card, right? The ATM console have methods like insert prompt pin, prompt option, prompt amount, verify pin. These are the methods for prompt pin, verify pin, prompt option, prompt amount, verify amount. These are for ATM console. The bank database have deduct amount, put cash, print receipt. So these are an eject card. Eject card, deduct amount, put cash, print receipt. These are for this. This is how you find out the different methods from the collaboration diagram. Can you understand how you are taking out methods according to the classes? Yes. And then they have just made a method verify pin contain number of pins, max is 2, variable pin count is number, set pin count to 0, read pin from ATM card, loop until pin count is equal to number of max pin. So if you have a maximum pin allowed are 2, if you are putting wrong pin and the maximum limit have been crossed, so input pin from the customer. If pin matches with card pin database, then call prompt option method, and if add 1 to pin count and loop. If pin count is equal to maximum pin count, if you are putting wrong pin counts and it is equal to the maximum pin count, then seize customer card, else call eject method and if. So they are checking for a how you write the code for a or you can say a pseudo code for verifying the pin, and how many times a pin can be utilized. Consider another example of program management system. Again, they have given for program management system admin, program coordinator, course, and the messages which are passing. Again, you are saying admin will do these things from the collaboration diagram. Program is doing these things from the collaboration diagram. Faculty is this, course is this. This is right. So these are the methods. Then implementing constraint is also there, like @null private string employee name. So if a rule dictates that the employee name may never be null, then you should like to place @null annotation to define the constraint like the following. Right. So they are just saying that you can apply the constraint also, like here salary should be less, the salary of the employee should be less than equal to the boss salary, right? So something like that. So age should be less than equal to 30 in a job applicant, right? Then withdrawal amount should be greater than equal to the balance amount. So like here, public saving account class is there, with void function is withdraw function is there, double withdrawal amount, private balance amount. So this is a variable. If balance withdrawal amount is greater than equal to balance amount is equal to balance amount minus withdrawal amount. Otherwise, you will show an error if it is greater than that, right? So something like that. Then state chart diagram. Suppose you have this authentication, seat availability, booking ticket, payment, print ticket. This is the booking ticket state chart diagram, right? So they are just showing you that. So they are implementing that, how you will implement that, like a video player is there and the player state is there. So they are saying that there is a stop and play state. So when you start a button, and so it will go to the play state, play start will be there, and if you click the stop button, it will go to the stop state. So something like that they are showing you. I'm not going for that. It's not asked so much. Then in persistency in database, you are asked data persistent. So the most important task the application perform is to save and restore data. Persistent data may give useful mechanism for passing data between program and permits program to resume processing after a while. So persistent data is permanent data. which is available even after exiting the program or exiting the system. You have persistent data, which is steady and restorable and is accessible after closing the application, and non-persistent or transient data is not accessible after closing the application. The non-persistent data means it is volatile, that is available during the application execution, and after the execution of the program, it is gone. So transient data are temporary in nature and do not have any representation. Permanent persistent data are saved to the database and it survive after the transaction updates or program concludes. This is permanent data. Then they are talking about serialization. So we will talk about that in our practical sessions. We have practical sessions. I'm just going through certain thing which I wanted to show you. So if you have to map object mapping with databases, if you have to do, so suppose you should know that some of you must be knowing about what is a DBMS and what is database schema, database constraint, data dictionary, the different primary key and foreign key concepts and all that. So I'm not talking about that. We are just saying, suppose you have two tables here, course table and student table, right? To make a suppose you have this kind of a thing. Uh, I'll just show you. Uh, Ah, if you have a table, then how in SQL you write that code is, suppose you have a student table. So you will say create table student, a circular bracket, student ID, and you are giving the data type as ID only here, and not null. Name varchar is a data type, 30 is the size of that, not null. Address varchar, primary key student ID. So your student ID will be your primary key. This one. This is how it is created. So if you have if you have this kind mapping binary association into table, if we have to do one to one, one country have one city as the capital city. So if you have to create a tables out of this, so first you will take country table and a city table. So how will you write? Create table country code int not null, country name varchar 30 not null, primary key is country code, right? Same way, city code int not null, city name varchar 30 whatever size you want to give not null, right? And country code int not null will also you will give. So primary key is city code in this table, and country code in city code, which is the primary key of country table, is the foreign key. So foreign key country code reference country table. This is how you create. Can you understand? If you have a ternary relationship like this, so you will first create the table for university, then a table for employee, and then a table for university employee. Now the primary key here may be suppose university name, and here is employee name. And in university employee, university name and employee name will be there, and they are the foreign key of university and employee table, and they will be primary key of university and employee also. So if you go here, if you see here, you have create table university ID, university name, university address. University ID is the primary key. Employee table, employee ID, employee name, employee address, employee ID is the primary key in this table. But the university employee table will have university ID and employee ID, job title and salary are the also will be there. University ID is the and employee ID are the primary key also, and university ID and employee ID are foreign key also. University ID is reference university, employee ID is reference employee. So this kind of an association. Same way, this is also there. Course and student registered for. So course code and student ID are the primary key for course, and student ID is the primary key for student. And registered for will have course code and student ID as primary key also, and course code and student ID referring to course and student foreign key also. Like this. So course code and student ID will be in the registered for, and primary key are course code and student ID, and foreign key course code is reference to course, and foreign key student ID refers to, like this. Can you understand? Class, any doubts in that? Same way here also, if you see here, table course is there, course code is the primary key, table student ID is the primary key, table assignment ID is the primary key. When you have a ternary table where course code, student ID, assignment ID will be the primary keys also, and they will be the foreign keys also referring to the different tables. Yes or no? Class, can you understand
Yes,
this?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In the
Yes, ma'am.
practical session, we will be talking about them when we will go to that particular section, right? So this is what your
Right, ma'am.
fourth block is all about: implementing associations, also implementing classes, also implementing collaboration diagram or communication diagram, also how it is implemented, and also implementing how the classes are converted into tables. This is what is all about in your fourth block, right? Any doubts? Any doubts you have? So this is your last theory class, right? Then now, from now on, we will be having practical sessions only. So this is your last block which is there. So remember, I have already told you what all things you need to study for the exam, right? Your diagrams are important. That is your main study point, right? Any doubts in anything which you need to ask? Please put your attendance, name and enrollment number in the chat box. Any doubts anybody is having? No doubts?
No, ma'am.
Everybody has put your attendance, name and enrollment number. Anybody is left? So we'll end the class now if you don't have any doubts, and we will meet in the next class, that is next Saturday, right? We will be doing the different practical questions which we were doing. Your theory has been the 4 blocks we have covered already, right? Any doubts, or we should end the class? Should we end?
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome. So we'll meet in the next class. We will be doing the practical diagrams which are there, right? Take care.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.